All right, hello everybody. Chadwick Mahaffey here again, and this is day 2 of the 30-day Speak to Camera Challenge, and it is January 2nd, Tuesday. And when I first started this, I had a conversation with my buddy ChatGPT, who I'm a big fan of. Being a computer programmer, I really am interested in how that technology is growing and evolving. And so I had the conversation about what I'm trying to do, and I asked it for 30 days of prompts about what I'm doing. And the second day it came up with the prompt of how I have some notes on this, but I've memorized most of this, but how I first encountered the Zettelkasten. And I started to kind of think about that. What would I say in a video? What would I bring forth? Part of this 30-day challenge is I'm trying to do 3 things as well for the content that I create. So not only am I trying to be more comfortable and authentic and looking at the lens, I'm also trying to be educational, potentially entertaining. I could tell you some dad jokes here and there. I won't though, not right now. And trying to find a way to be inspiring. So those are 3 other goals as part of this. But I'm thinking, okay, how can I bring that idea of first encountering the Zettelkasten and make that educational? But I thought, you know what? Let me focus on I want to tell the story of how I came to it and why it's been so important to me in my life. I don't remember if I said that the Zettelkasten has literally changed the trajectory of my life. I don't know if I said that, but it has. It has done this. And in order to tell you kind of how I came to find it, I want to back up a bit and tell the story of where I was in my life, I guess, when I did find it. And it starts, I think, the end of last year. I think the end of not 2023, but 2022, I believe. And I can't remember if it was the beginning of the year or it was before my mother's birthday, which is in February. So it must have been at the end of 2022 that this kind of story starts. So went up to see my mother on it wasn't Mother's Day, it was her birthday. And she wasn't feeling well. And so I tried to talk her into going to the doctor, and my brother and I were with her that day. And so she said she would, and she made an appointment, and then it was like a month and a half later. We both went up there, my brother and I, and took her to the doctor, and they wanted to get some blood tests done. So we ended up taking her to the hospital to do the lab work and everything. And then right before this happened, when I was working, I'm a computer programmer. I work from home, and through the day, I was starting to feel very ill. I didn't know why. I didn't know if it was just I've felt ill before, not that big of a deal. I've had sinus issues all my life, whatever. But this was a little different. This was something where my brain was getting foggy. I'd be programming and it would be like noon and I would be dead tired. Like just couldn't function, tired. I thought maybe I had mono or something crazy, you know, something I didn't know what was going on. And I would have to get a hold of my boss and say, hey, I'm not feeling great. I'm gonna go lay down. I'll try to be on, you know. And I was missing, you know, a couple hours of work every day for quite a while. Finally, it got to the point where I was like, I gotta check this out. So I made a doctor's appointment. Probably should have done this sooner. But, you know, all these things go through your head, you know, the worst situations come to mind. You know, you start thinking, you know, I got cancer, you know, what's going on? And all these things were playing around in my head. Made the appointment, went to the doctor and found out that it wasn't serious. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. I had type 2 diabetes. I was pretty overweight, 245-ish pounds, something like that. And didn't do much physically because I'm a computer programmer. I sit in front of my desk in this chair that I'm sitting in right now. And I just program all day. The only exercise I would get would be, you know, these fingers. My wife jokingly says that in the mornings I've got to do my, you know, finger exercises so that my fingers are limbered up and ready to go. But so I'm the kind of person that I have a tendency, while I'm on the ADHD spectrum, never diagnosed, but I have a real good guess that I'm somewhere on that spectrum. But I have a tendency for all or nothing kind of mentality. So from that, I realized I have to change my life. I have to change my lifestyle. I got to stop eating sugar. I've got to change my lifestyle and what I eat, everything. And I did that. And so then fast forward from there to when I met Mom for her birthday and my brother and I. So we ended up eventually taking her to the doctor, and there didn't seem to be that much urgency about it from the doctor's perspective. And so took her back home, and we went back home. I live about an hour and a half away from her, and my brother lives pretty close to her. But then get up the next morning, I log into work, and my brother gives me a call, and he says Mom's in the hospital. They called her back after they got the results of the test. I'm like, oh boy, you know, okay. So rushed up there, and come to find out she's got super high sugar levels, super high. Now, I remember talking to her during her birthday because I was telling her about my diabetes, and she said, oh, I've had diabetes. And she said, but I take my medicine and I can eat pretty much anything I want to now. And I was thinking at the time, you know, well, that's weird because that's not how I understand it, you know. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just being a little obsessive and kind of maybe a little crazy about it. You know, maybe you can eat whatever you want really after you get it under control. And anyway, so she ended up in the hospital with this super high sugar levels, and come to find out, and this tells you how good of a son I am, to my chagrin, we find out that she's got dementia. So she's not taking the pills that she needs to take. She's not eating right. She's not doing what she used to do to control it. And in her mind, everything's fine. So we go through about a week of taking her to 4 different hospitals. Get her in there, get her out of there. Finally, they admitted her to one for days. And we're trying to decide what we're going to do about this. The plan was always eventually to move her in with us. We actually started building the basement into an apartment for her. So my brother and I decided that we will fast forward that plan and get her in there. But it was actually quicker than we could finish the basement. But we did move her in with us into one of our guest rooms. And So this is happening, and all this time going through this, I had recently started journaling, and just kind of to keep my brain, my attitude right, my brain right about things that are going on. My journaling at first was not deep. And really I started it so that I could work on a novel that I had been working on. I watched a video about what is his name? I can't remember the author's name, but he was talking about writing with a fountain pen, and he writes his novels with a fountain pen on paper, and I thought that's kind of cool. I want to give that a try. So I ended up getting myself a journal and a fountain pen, and did it the analog way, and it was going really well. Well, excuse me. So then all this stuff happened with Mother, and we moved her in, and now it's going to take a while to tell this story and to get everything together. But for a year and a half previously to this, my wife had been helping her mother with her grandmother. Her grandmother has not dementia, but Alzheimer's had. And she had been in hospice for that year and a half, and Rebecca had been going there for every day to help in that situation. And so what was interesting is, because I had the diabetes, and because I had learned how to handle this in my own life, then when she moved in with me, I had that experience, I had that knowledge that I could help serve my mom, which was a huge blessing. You know, what was very difficult for me then became a way that I could serve her. And then my wife is kind of the same thing. Not too long after my mother moved in with us, her grandmother passed away, and she stopped going there every day, and then she used a lot of that knowledge that she learned working with her grandmother to help me work with my mother, and also she served my mother as well. So all this time I'm journaling and writing things that I'm being more honest with myself, right? In the analog way of doing it was a way for me to really think and really ask myself the right questions, right? Change my attitude if I needed to change my attitude. Anyway, so all that's happening. Around this time, I'm also starting to learn about the Stoics, Stoic philosophy, and Stoic philosophers. I'm also doing Bible study and prayer in my journal, and I'm writing a ton of notes about Stoicism and all kinds of things, right? Entrepreneurial stuff, writing more of my novel, and then plotting my novel and all that stuff. And the journals got quite messy and quite hard to manage and hard to find things. It was great being able to do that, but it was very difficult, right? They become they just become these, like, I can't find things. Long story short. So let's see. I started looking for ways that let me back up again. I had been asked at our church to do a message, and over that previous summer, I had done a message, And after that message, I thought, I want to preach a message on the glory of God. The glory of God, which you can determine is synonymous with the character of God. His love, His mercy, His just all aspects of His character are the glory of God. And as we behold that glory, this is 2 Corinthians, as we behold His glory, we're being transformed into that same glory. It says from glory to glory, just as from the Lord the Spirit. So I wanted to do a message on that. And I really wanted to kind of focus on, the Old Testament where Moses sees His glory, all that. Anyway, as I was writing out this message and working on it, I'm realizing to myself that I'm sorry, I need to back up a little bit more again. Every morning I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to work on my novel. And I was excited enough to do that. That was getting me out of bed at 3:30 in the morning, which is nuts. It is nuts. I still do it, but it's nuts. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that is normal to do. So I had been getting up 3:30 every morning working on these are the 5 that are my plotting and organizing out my novel, or novels actually. Series of 6 books is what it's planned to be. And a good friend of mine had wrote her book that she had spent like 2 years on, and she wanted me to be the first reader of it. So I said, yeah, I'll read it. And I got excited about it. And that's what got me started on my novel. So I was getting up every morning and writing the novel. That was what I was focused on. And what I was realizing is that my prayer time, my devotional time, my all of that was becoming secondary. And as I was coming up with this message, I realized that I'm living hypocritically, right? That yeah, I say that Christianity is my top priority, but I had let something else become an idol over that. And it's easy to do, every that's the temptation, right? It's we get so focused and excited about this or that's it's easy to do. And so I changed my message really about focusing. I prayed a lot about, I want the things that are eternally focused, I want that to be more exciting than writing my novel. And prayer was answered over time. And what I would do is I would get up at 3:30, and then 7:30 I would go and do my work stuff, right? My normal routine day. And so so what I said is, okay, I'm gonna spend half the time doing Bible study and that type of thing, and then half the time I'll work on the novel. Well, gradually over time, that journaling and devotion and just being honest with myself and working through all the situations of just life and asking myself the right questions and all that became more important to me, which was awesome. That was kind of what I was hoping for. But again, all this became very messy in the journal. So I was looking for a way to organize it, and I kept seeing things come across my feeds about Zettelkasten. Now, I've always been a computer programmer, so my first thought was digital. And I used the Brain software I didn't even realize there was an analog version of it really at first. But then I realized this is not allowing me to really think. I like journaling better. I like the analog. And then I ran across, who I mentioned yesterday, I ran across Scott Shepard's YouTube channel. And when I saw that, I was just like, "Whoa, this is cool. I'm already using cards for my novel writing. This is way cool." So I watched one of his videos. One leads to two, two leads to three, and then all of a sudden, I think it was the fourth one I watched. I watched the one-on-one he did with Steve. I think it's Heimler. I think it's Heimler is how you pronounce his last name. But Scott and Steve were doing a one-on-one, and Scott was teaching him how to set the Zettelkasten up. And I got it, right away. It was making sense. So I was like, yeah, I've got to do this. I'm gonna do this. So I sit down. I kind of follow what he taught Steve to do. I think his name's Steve. I might have that wrong. Hopefully I don't. And so I was able to get that started. And that was, I was able to get that started. And then, so kind of to bring, I guess I want to read something. What the Zettelkasten has actually done. I started it and I've never looked back. And that's why, part of the reason I have this, you don't have to have this, okay? This is my Zettelkasten, but you don't need to do that to do a Zettelkasten, okay? This is my obsession. All you need is note cards and a pen, honestly. I'll talk more about that in another video, but I want to read off the back of the book that I talked about yesterday, the book I wrote. It says, "What if you could recall every valuable insight you ever came across from this day forward, and then use those insights to motivate you to take profound action?" And that's what the Zettelkasten allows. It allows you to not only collect things, but think about how many books you've read, how many maybe sermons you've listened to, how many YouTube videos you've watched, where things resonated with you, was super awesome, exciting, and then over time the things just you forget. Your memory, it just goes away, right? Life happens and you move on, and then the next thing comes along and you're excited about that, and the next thing comes along and you're excited about that, and you might remember bits and pieces about those things, but for the most part only the big pieces of those things that really stood out are still with you. But if you wanted to go back and find out exactly where they were, it would take you quite a while. The Zettelkasten allows you to not only capture those things that resonate with you, that the insights, and record them, but then it allows you to build on those insights, build on those things that you not only found resonated with you, and so they don't go away. You're not forgetting them. You're continually building on those. And that's what the Zettelkasten does. So the reason I brought up my mother and all this stuff going on with my life and diabetes and all this stuff is the Zettelkasten is what it has allowed me to do is I can do research on diabetes. I can do research on cognition and memory and helping with dementia, learning more about it, all that stuff, and Bible study, and anything I'm interested in. And it's all done the same way. It's all done holistically, I guess, where it's all part of one system, and it's amazing. And so that's how I found it. That's how I first encountered it, was through Scott Shepard's website. And I ended up getting his book. This is the Anti-Net Zettelkasten by Scott Shepard. A knowledge system that will turn you into a prolific reader, researcher, and writer. And so, being on that spectrum of ADHD, I became quite obsessive, but it has been such a huge tool to help me and to change the trajectory of my life, like I said earlier. So I guess that's day 2 of the 30-day challenge, and I still don't have a very good outro. I don't even have a really good intro, and I'm not really sticking to the 3 points that they talk about memorizing. But anyway, this is day 2. I'm learning as I go. Thank you for your time. I hope this has been encouraging. I hope this has been edifying in some way. Tomorrow, the prompt that I have is actually just to kind of go over what the Zettelkasten is and how it works in general, kind of give you the basics. And then my 4th day is how I use it in my spiritual life. And we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. It's past my bedtime. It's only 8 o'clock at night, but I try to get in bed by 7:30 because I get up at 3:30 every morning. And but I wanted to get this out there, and this is day 2. Now, I might not do this every day. I might not be able to do it every day, but Lord willing, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to make this work for 30 days. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Let's see if this actually stopped.